In a quiet suburban neighborhood, Emily was found brutally murdered in her own home. Her husband, David, a quiet and reserved man, was immediately suspected by the police due to his proximity to the crime scene and the lack of any signs of forced entry. Emily's body was discovered in their bedroom, the scene disturbingly devoid of any clear motive or suspect. David, devastated by the loss of his wife, found himself at the center of a relentless investigation. Despite his grief, he was questioned extensively by detectives who were skeptical of his alibi and bewildered by the absence of any clear suspects or motives. As days turned into weeks, the case only deepened in complexity, with no new leads or evidence surfacing. Meanwhile, whispers began to circulate among the neighbors, speculating about David's stoic demeanor and the mysterious circumstances surrounding Emily's death. Some suggested that perhaps their seemingly idyllic marriage had hidden secrets, while others pointed to financial troubles or a potential affair as possible motives. As the investigation continued, David's life became increasingly scrutinized. His every move was analyzed, his past relationships examined, and his behavior dissected for any clue that might point to his guilt or innocence. Despite his protests of innocence and grief-stricken demeanor, doubts continued to linger in the minds of those closest to him. Months passed without a breakthrough, leaving both the police and David frustrated and exhausted by the lack of progress. The case of Emily's murder remained unsolved, casting a long shadow over David's life as he struggled to cope with the loss of his wife and the cloud of suspicion that now surrounded him. As the months dragged on with no new leads in Emily's murder case, David found himself increasingly isolated. Friends and neighbors, once supportive, now eyed him with suspicion whenever he walked down the street or visited the local store. The media coverage had died down, but the whispers and rumors persisted, swirling around him like a suffocating fog. David's routine became a monotonous cycle of police interviews, lawyer consultations, and lonely nights spent grappling with memories of Emily and the accusations that now shadowed his every move. The once serene neighborhood felt oppressive, each familiar sight and sound now tinged with the stain of suspicion. Despite his efforts to maintain composure, David's grief and frustration began to take a toll. Sleep became elusive, replaced by restless nights haunted by visions of Emily's final moments and the unanswered questions that tormented him. The relentless scrutiny from both the authorities and the community gnawed at his resolve, leaving him grappling with a profound sense of injustice and helplessness. In a desperate attempt to find solace and regain a semblance of normalcy, David immersed himself in memories of happier times with Emily. He revisited old photographs, listened to recordings of her laughter, and retraced their favorite spots around town. Each moment spent reminiscing brought a bittersweet mix of comfort and anguish, a reminder of the life they once shared and the future that had been brutally stolen from them. As the anniversary of Emily's death approached, the pressure mounted. The police renewed their efforts, appealing to the public for any information that could break the case wide open. David, too, sought answers, reaching out to anyone who might shed light on Emily's final days or provide a clue that had been overlooked. But the truth remained elusive, buried beneath layers of speculation and doubt. David's quest for justice became a solitary journey, a relentless pursuit of closure amidst a community that had already reached its own conclusions. Months turned into years, and the mystery of Emily's murder lingered like an open wound in the fabric of their once peaceful neighborhood. David continued to navigate the daily rituals of life, forever changed by the loss of his beloved wife and the enduring shadow of suspicion that refused to fade. The story of Emily's murder became a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones, a reminder of the fragility of happiness and the devastating impact of unresolved grief. For David, the search for truth and redemption became a solitary quest, a journey marked by sorrow, resilience, and an unwavering determination to honor Emily's memory, even as the passage of time threatened to obscure the elusive answers he so desperately sought. Years passed since Emily's tragic death, and David found himself caught in a perpetual cycle of grief and suspicion. The once vibrant neighborhood had moved on, new families settling into homes once occupied by those who had known Emily and David. Yet, for David, time seemed frozen in that moment of loss, his every waking hour consumed by memories and unanswered questions. Despite the passage of time, the investigation into Emily's murder remained open, albeit with diminishing hope of resolution. Leads grew cold, witnesses faded away, and the initial fervor surrounding the case waned. The police department's resources shifted to newer, more promising cases, leaving David to wonder if justice for Emily would ever be served. David's life became a fragile balance between maintaining a semblance of normalcy and grappling with the relentless ache of grief. He threw himself into work, burying his emotions in long hours and meticulous attention to detail. Colleagues noted his dedication and quiet resolve, unaware of the turmoil that churned beneath his composed exterior. Occasionally, David would revisit old haunts, places he and Emily had once frequented together. Each visit was a pilgrimage, a poignant reminder of their shared dreams and the abrupt end to their life together. He sought solace in the familiar sights and sounds, searching for traces of Emily's presence amid the echoes of memories that refused to fade. As the years stretched on, David's determination to find justice for Emily never wavered. He continued to cooperate with the authorities, attending periodic interviews and providing any new information that surfaced from his own inquiries. The investigation, though slow-moving and frustratingly inconclusive, became a lifeline, a fragile thread connecting him to the promise he had made to Emily on the day they exchanged vows. In quieter moments, when the weight of grief threatened to overwhelm him, David found solace in small acts of remembrance. He tended to Emily's garden, nurturing the flowers she had loved so dearly. He kept her favorite books neatly arranged on the shelves, their pages worn from countless readings. Each gesture was a testament to the love they had shared and the enduring bond that death could not sever. Despite the passage of time and the absence of closure, David held on to hope, a flickering ember in the darkness of uncertainty. He clung to the belief that one day, justice would prevail, and Emily's memory would be honored with the truth. Until then, he remained steadfast in his quest for answers, determined to unravel the mystery that had shattered his world and left him adrift in a sea of unanswered questions. The story of Emily's murder became woven into the fabric of David's existence, a haunting melody that echoed through the corridors of his heart. It was a story of loss and longing, of resilience and unyielding determination. A story that defied the passage of time and the insidious grip of doubt. And as David continued to navigate the labyrinth of grief, he held fast to the hope that one day, the shadows would part and justice would finally be served for the woman he had loved so deeply and lost so tragically. David's determination to find justice for Emily persisted, despite the years of uncertainty and the gradual fading of public interest in her case. He continued to cooperate with the authorities, attending every meeting, answering every question, and tirelessly searching for any new lead that might bring clarity to the mystery surrounding her death. The passage of time had not dulled David's grief. If anything, it had sharpened his resolve. He became adept at compartmentalizing his emotions, channeling his sorrow into a relentless pursuit of truth. Days blurred into weeks, months into years, yet David remained steadfast in his commitment to uncovering what had happened to Emily on that fateful day. The investigation itself had evolved over time, with new detectives periodically assigned to the case, each bringing fresh perspectives and methodologies. Cold case reviews became more frequent, technology advanced, and forensic techniques improved. Yet, despite these efforts, the fundamental question of who had taken Emily's life remained unanswered. Outside of the investigative circles, David's life had become a shadow of its former self. Friends had drifted away, unable to comprehend the toll that Emily's death had taken on him. Some whispered behind closed doors, speculating on his innocence or guilt, while others simply avoided him altogether, unable to reconcile the man they once knew with the tragedy that defined his existence. Through it all, David clung to the memories of Emily, their shared laughter, her gentle touch, the dreams they had woven together. He immersed himself in their past, poring over old photographs and cherished mementos, seeking solace in the fragments of a life that had been abruptly shattered. One particularly poignant moment came on what would have been their anniversary. David visited Emily's grave, laying fresh flowers and whispering words of love and longing into the stillness of the cemetery. He felt her presence there, a silent companion in his ongoing journey through grief and uncertainty. As the years turned into a decade, hope flickered like a candle in the wind. The case had become a cold trail, buried under layers of bureaucracy and the relentless passage of time. Yet, David refused to surrender to despair. He continued to advocate for Emily, attending vigils and speaking to the media whenever the opportunity arose, determined to keep her memory alive and the pressure on those responsible for finding her killer. And then, unexpectedly, a breakthrough came. A small piece of evidence overlooked in the initial investigation. A witness who had previously remained silent, fearing reprisal. It was a fragile lead, but it reignited a spark of hope within David, a glimmer of possibility that justice might finally be within reach. The renewed investigation gained momentum, drawing national attention once more to Emily's case. Detectives worked tirelessly, following every lead, re-interviewing witnesses, and meticulously re-examining the evidence. Days turned into weeks of intense scrutiny. Anticipation mingled with anxiety as David held his breath, praying for a resolution to the nightmare that had haunted him for so long. And then, one crisp autumn morning, David received the call he had both dreaded and longed for. A suspect had been identified, arrested, and charged with Emily's murder. It was a moment of overwhelming emotion, a bittersweet victory tinged with sorrow and relief. As he stood outside the courthouse on the day of the trial, surrounded by supporters and journalists, David felt a profound sense of closure wash over him. Inside the courtroom, the trial unfolded, each testimony and piece of evidence meticulously presented. The defendant, a former acquaintance of Emily's with a history of violence, sat impassively as the prosecution built their case. It was a grueling process, dredging up painful memories and forcing David to confront the darkest chapter of his life once more. But through it all, David remained resolute. He listened intently to the proceedings, his heart heavy with the weight of loss and the magnitude of what was at stake. And when the jury finally delivered their verdict, guilty of first-degree murder, David felt a profound sense of justice, tempered by the knowledge that no verdict could ever bring Emily back. In the aftermath of the trial, David found himself grappling with a new reality, one shaped by grief, resilience, and the enduring power of love. He visited Emily's grave once more, this time with a sense of peace and closure that had eluded him for so long. He thanked her for guiding him through the darkest days of his life and promised to cherish her memory always. As David walked away from the cemetery that day, a weight lifted from his shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, marked by scars that would never fully heal. But he knew that Emily's spirit would forever be with him, a beacon of hope and a reminder of the strength that had carried him through the storm. And so, the story of Emily's murder came full circle, a tale of loss and perseverance, of justice delayed but not denied. For David, it was a journey marked by profound transformation, a journey that had tested his faith, his courage, and his capacity for forgiveness. And as he looked toward the future, he knew that Emily's legacy would endure, a testament to the enduring power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. In the aftermath of the trial and the closure it brought, David began the slow process of rebuilding his life. The weight of suspicion that had burdened him for so many years gradually lifted, replaced by a newfound sense of freedom tempered with the lingering ache of loss. He immersed himself in work, finding solace in the familiar routines that had once seemed mundane but now offered stability and purpose. Support from friends and well-wishers poured in, their belief in his innocence reaffirming his faith in humanity. Some shared stories of their own struggles with grief and adversity, finding comfort in David's resilience and determination to honor Emily's memory. Others extended gestures of kindness, a meal shared, a shoulder to lean on, reminders that he was not alone in his journey toward healing. As seasons changed and time marched forward, David found himself drawn to new beginnings. He volunteered at a local charity, channeling his energies into helping others in need, a tribute to Emily's compassionate spirit that had always inspired him. He joined a support group for survivors of loss, finding solace in shared experiences and the empathy of those who understood the depths of his sorrow. Yet, Amidst the healing and the semblance of normalcy, David carried Emily's memory with him every step of the way. He visited her grave regularly, tending to the flowers and sharing updates on his life as if she were still by his side. He spoke to her as if she could hear him, finding comfort in the belief that her spirit was watching over him, guiding him through the uncertainties of life. In quieter moments, when the echoes of the trial and its aftermath subsided, David allowed himself to dream once more. He envisioned a future where laughter replaced tears, where memories of Emily brought smiles instead of sorrow. He considered pursuing new interests, exploring passions that had long been set aside in the tumult of grief and uncertainty. Through it all, David remained vigilant in his quest for justice. He attended parole hearings and spoke out against leniency for Emily's convicted killer, determined to ensure that justice was not only served but upheld. His advocacy extended beyond the confines of the courtroom, becoming a voice for victims of violence and a champion for reforms aimed at preventing similar tragedies. As time passed, the wounds of loss began to heal, leaving behind scars that served as reminders of the journey David had undertaken. He learned to cherish the memories he had shared with Emily, finding strength in the love they had once nurtured and the legacy she had left behind. And as he looked toward the horizon, he embraced the possibilities that lay ahead, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love. The story of Emily's murder had shaped David in ways he could have never imagined. It had tested his faith, challenged his resolve, and ultimately transformed him into a beacon of hope for others grappling with grief and injustice. And as he walked forward into the uncertain future, David carried with him a sense of peace. A peace born from the knowledge that Emily's spirit would forever guide him, a constant reminder of the profound impact she had made on his life and the lives of all who knew her. As David continued to rebuild his life in the wake of Emily's murder being solved and justice being served, he found himself gradually reclaiming a sense of normalcy that had long eluded him. The support from friends, neighbors, and the broader community buoyed his spirits, providing a lifeline of understanding and compassion that helped ease the weight of grief. One of the most significant changes in David's life came in the form of renewed relationships. Estranged friends reconnected, their initial distance now bridged by shared experiences of loss and redemption. They welcomed David back into their lives with open arms, eager to rebuild connections that had faltered in the aftermath of Emily's death and the ensuing turmoil. Among those who stood steadfast by David's side was Sarah, a childhood friend whose unwavering support had been a source of strength throughout the darkest days. Sarah had remained a constant presence, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on when the weight of grief threatened to overwhelm him. Their bond deepened as they navigated the complexities of healing and recovery together, forging a friendship that blossomed into something more. As David and Sarah leaned on each other for support, their relationship blossomed into a tender romance, a beacon of hope and renewal amid the shadows of the past. Their love grew slowly, nurtured by shared laughter and heartfelt conversations that bridged the gaps left by loss. Sarah's presence brought a sense of warmth and optimism back into David's life, reminding him that it was possible to find happiness even after enduring profound sorrow. Together, they embarked on new adventures, exploring passions and interests that had long been dormant. They traveled to places Emily had always dreamed of visiting, creating new memories tinged with gratitude for the second chances life had granted them. Sarah's presence brought a sense of stability and joy to David's life, grounding him in the present while honoring the memory of Emily with grace and compassion. In the midst of their newfound happiness, David remained committed to keeping Emily's memory alive. He established a foundation in her honor, dedicated to supporting victims of domestic violence and advocating for reforms in the criminal justice system. The foundation became a beacon of hope for those who had experienced similar tragedies, offering resources, support, and a voice for change. As the years passed, David's life became a testament to resilience and the transformative power of love. He continued to visit Emily's grave, sharing updates on the foundation's progress and speaking to her as if she were still there beside him. He found solace in knowing that her legacy lived on through the lives they had touched and the impact they had made on their community. Through it all, David never forgot the journey that had brought him to this place. A journey marked by heartache, courage, and the unwavering belief that justice, though delayed, had ultimately prevailed. Emily's memory remained a guiding light, illuminating the path forward and reminding him of the strength that had carried him through the darkest days. And as David looked toward the future, he did so with gratitude and hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. Emily's murder had forever altered the course of his life, but in its aftermath, David had discovered a renewed sense of purpose and a profound appreciation for the preciousness of each moment. The story of Emily's murder had unfolded with tragedy and uncertainty, but it had also become a story of redemption, resilience, and the enduring capacity of the human heart to heal and to love again. And as David embraced the possibilities that lay ahead, he did so with Emily's memory held close, a cherished companion on the journey toward a brighter tomorrow.